Usually in these videos, I present you with some kind of answer or conclusion to an issue or idea, but today, I think our resolution is best described by you, the viewer, the player. So be sure you stick around till the end and comment your thoughts below. Make sure you're subscribed while you're at it. I'm the Home Slice, Ascend Hyperion. Today's topic is less of a punch out with a problem and more of a stroll with me as I think through it all. Here's the short idea. Halo Infinite might either have the best golden triangle in Halo's history or one of the most broken. It may be a matter of perspective. Let's start like this. The golden triangle is the symbiotic relationship between guns, grenades, and melee. If you're new to Halo or someone who just likes to try picking fights in YouTube comments, understand that the triangle is not a simple acknowledgement that these three exist in the game. The triangle is the result and representation of how these three things are far more commonly used in any one singular fight in Halo than in most other FPS games, especially its old contemporaries. The golden triangle is also not what governs Halo's combat alone. There are other bits that make it work as well, and they all contribute to what's known as the dance. Now, each Halo game, and I mean each Halo, has done things both intentionally and unintentionally that has morphed and warped the triangle a little bit. Halo 2 added dual wielding, which really messed up grenades and melee. Halo 3 had both dual wielding and equipment, which sort of was the equivalent of pressing shuffle on any given fight. Halo 4 and Reach used armor abilities and class abilities to achieve similar effects, and Halo 5 gave steroids to the melee corner with a swath of high mobility and melee-based Spartan abilities. Today, I think we're knocking on the door of what will go down as one of Infinite's major stabs at the triangle, a certain combat strategy in Infinite that is far more prevalent in this game than in any other Halo. Up to this point, I have called it the one tap, one slap. I mentioned it several times when discussing the Mangler earlier this month, and as many of you already know, the one tap, one slap is a strategy that has landed the Mangler in hot water, as fans across the globe debate whether or not it makes the Mangler overpowered. A few people were pretty upset I didn't back them up on the claim that the one tap, one slap is a step too far, and I think people like that have missed out on one key fact. The one tap, one slap is not exclusive to the Mangler in this game. It's also achievable by the Ravager, the Hydra, the Cinder Shot, the Heat Wave, and the Bulldog. Now, there's nothing inherently bad about that, it's just kind of the consequence of the math behind the damage. The issue for me arises when we start considering the weapon classes involved here. The Ravager, Hydra, and Cinder Shot are all explosive weapons, and historically, this is not the weapon class you just sort of barrel stuff a guy with. Now, in the case of the Ravager and the Cinder Shot, the way the range works out for these weapons, you can totally just dump a shot into a guy, take no splash damage yourself, and just truck out a melee. The Hydra, for me, is the strangest participant in this debacle, because the Halo Infinite version is such a diet bastardization of the Halo 5 version. Infinite turns the tracking rocket launcher into a Samus cannon arm that allows the player to just legit ignore the main gimmick of this weapon, which is the tracking. And since its straight shot mode is better and better when used up close, the Hydra is almost a better shotgun than the Bulldog, allowing you to just shell shock enemies at covert distance. And again, why belt out a second shot when you can just elbow an unsuspecting fool to death? Hey, while we're talking about the Bulldog, let's discuss the one tap, one slap on what is supposed to be our shotgun trio in this game. The Bulldog, the Heat Wave, and the Mangler. While the Mangler gets a pass for being more akin to a hand cannon, the Heat Wave and Bulldog are pretty much the only weapons this strat seems intended for, which is again a net negative in my mindset. The Bulldog and Heat Wave derive from weapons that were once fully capable of dishing out insta-kills, which was a conditional combat trait that was highly coveted in the upper tier 2 weapon class in Halo's past. The argument, I'd imagine, is that these are close quarters weapons, so having one tap, one slap only encourages more dynamic close quarters fights. And yeah, let's say we agree. Having one tap, one slap makes it a close quarters weapon. Okay, great. So here are your close quarters weapons in Halo Infinite. Does something seem wrong here? And look, I'm not really complaining about the fact that these weapons can one tap, one slap. But fans of this channel know one thing that really matters in Halo is consistency. These weapons consistently allow one tap, one slap win in any generic fight, but then many of these have running quirks that make them just as lethal at ranges far beyond the one tap, one slap. So now you have a whole pool of weapons that weren't intended as close quarters weapons that can double up or triple up as close quarters weapons. These already have their own unique functions, and now they're just dipping into other pools. Let's relate all that back to the golden triangle. When we dial in on guns and melee, we should see a simple symbiotic relationship. But unlike in past games where one sorta outgrows the other, these two are like rivals, jacked up and racing against each other to be the primo mode of combat. Weapons in Infinite are bidding for high validity, and much of that comes from their function. 343 wanted weapons to perform good enough to be equal at a baseline, but very intentionally prevented any non-tier 3 weapons from being an insta-killer like in the past. This effectively creates a hard cap on the damage that results in many of these weapons being 2-shot killers instead of 1-shot, which you're left to wonder, is it really that much different? And in this corner, we have melee, which for the first time since Halo 2 has damage change considerably. Halo 3 didn't have considerable change based on weapon type, like how bladed weapons actually do more damage in this game. That's on top of this new wild melee lunge range and speed that, when it works right, feels like an Infinite you just snap to an enemy when you melee. But all this is multiplied by what I can only describe as Halo Infinite's claustrophobia-inducing map designs, where there is nowhere to hide, even less space to fight in. So in most Infinite maps, many fights are already naturally taking place within melee range. So, like I mentioned, 2 corners of the triangle are beefed up more than before. So here's where you come in, viewer. Is this an issue? Let's look back historically. Halo games have adjusted the triangle at the expense of the triangle. One thing gets better, the other thing gets worse. It's like a natural order. But in Infinite, the cup overfloweth. The inputs are just right to result in the symbiosis thriving, but now it's like a plague of vines in a garden. It's strong and far-reaching, but it's choking the fruits of your labor. At any given point in Infinite, any of these corners are tremendously lethal, and it's resulting in the triangle affecting the dance, Halo's grander design scheme. Range classes are having their lines blurred, strategies like strafing are starting to matter a little less, team shots are becoming almost universally required, as solo fights are clashing and canceling in trades so commonly, or as one player climbs so high on a power pedestal they cannot be challenged alone. We are seeing Infinite's revision of the dance develop, and most interesting to me, what may be its most negative results are the ones that are driven by its positive intentions. In the attempt to create balance in the golden triangle, we have created the monster, the golden triangle. My question for you and for the day is best phrased like this: does the symbiotic relationship of the golden triangle need equality, or does it need equity? The one tap, one slap strat is the unassuming end result of seeking equality. That's going to do it for today's video. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Twitter and on Instagram. You can continue the conversation and more by joining my Discord linked below. Until next time, I'll catch y'all later.